Welcome to our deep dive into the Rías Baixas wine region of Spain.
Ooh, fun.
You've given us a fascinating mix of articles and historical insights, so
Yeah,
get ready to explore what makes this corner of Galicia so special.
absolutely.
We're talking about wines that capture the essence of the Atlantic,
Yes.
a grape called Albariño that you'll want to get to know,
For sure.
and winemaking traditions that stretch back centuries.
You know, when you think about wine regions, you often think about rolling hills bathed in sunshine.
Yeah,
But Rías Baixas flips the script.
really?
The Atlantic Ocean is the dominant force here,
Oh, wow.
shaping the climate, the landscape,
Okay.
and even the flavors in the glass.
So it's not your typical sun-drenched vineyard.
Not exactly.
Hmm,
This region is known for its cool, humid climate thanks to the Atlantic.
okay.
And while that's ideal for certain white grapes,
Right.
it also presents some unique challenges.
Challenges like what?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
High humidity can lead to fungal diseases,
Oh, yeah.
which can spell disaster for grapes.
Right, right.
But over time, the winemakers of Rías Baixas have learned to adapt,
Mm-hmm.
becoming masters of resilience.
Yeah, our sources mentioned something called the POA system.
Oh, yes, the Para system.
What's that all about?
It's a traditional vine training method where the vines are grown high on pergolas,
Oh.
almost like they're reaching for the sky.
Oh, wow.
This allows for better air circulation, which helps to combat those humidity-related diseases.
I see.
It's a remarkable example of how generations of winemakers have learned to work with nature, not against it.
So they're essentially giving the grapes their own little breathing room.
Exactly.
Clever.
But you mentioned that the Atlantic influences more than just the climate.
Yeah, how does it impact the flavors of the wines?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Those cool ocean breezes and coastal fogs that
Right.
roll in,
Right.
they actually play a role in shaping the aroma profiles of the grapes.
Really?
Think about the salty air, the fresh sea spray.
Mm.
Those elements can translate into subtle nuances in the wine,
Wow.
adding a unique dimension to the flavors.
So you're telling me I might be able to taste the Atlantic in my class of Rías Baixas wine?
It's definitely possible.
That's amazing.
And that's just the beginning of the story.
Oh.
We haven't even touched on the history of winemaking in the region,
Oh.
which goes back further than you might think.
Yeah, our sources mentioned Roman vineyards.
Yes.
Were they sipping Albariño back then?
Well, Albariño might not have been the star of the show back then,
Right.
but viticulture has been a part of Rías Baixas since the Roman era.
Wow.
And it's fascinating how different historical periods have influenced the wines we enjoy today.
I'm particularly intrigued by the mention of medieval monasteries.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like they played a key role in the region's winemaking history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Monasteries were centers of learning and agriculture in the Middle Ages,
Mm-hmm.
and they played a significant role in preserving and developing winemaking techniques in Rías Baixas.
And we can't forget the Camino de Santiago,
Oh, yes.
that famous pilgrimage route that passes through the region.
Of course.
Our sources suggest it also had an impact on the vineyards.
Imagine medieval pilgrims trekking across the countryside,
Wow.
stopping at monasteries for rest and refreshment.
Yeah.
And what better way to replenish their spirits than with a taste of local wine?
So the Camino de Santiago may have helped spread the word about Rías Baixas wines,
That's very likely.
bringing more attention to this special corner of Spain.
And that historical layering from Roman vineyards to monastic cellars to pilgrims' paths
Wow.
adds a unique depth and richness to the story of Rías Baixas wine.
It really does.
It's a story that's deeply intertwined with the land, the people, and the passage of time.
It sounds like every glass holds a bit of history.
It does.
But Rías Baixas isn't just about the past, right?
Yeah.
It's also a region known for its diverse terroirs.
Yes.
Those distinct subregions that contribute to the incredible variety of wines.
Exactly. And to understand that diversity, we
Yeah.
need to talk about the 5 key subregions of Rías Baixas.
Okay.
Valdesones Condado, de Tea or Rosal Ribera, do Ula, and Sutamari.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Each one has its own unique characteristics,
Okay.
influenced by subtle variations in soil type,
Mm-hmm.
proximity to the ocean, and even altitude.
Our sources mentioned Valdesones being known for its elegant wines.
Yes.
What makes this subregion so special?
Valdesones is located right on the coast.
Okay.
So it's heavily influenced by the Atlantic.
Right.
Its soils are predominantly granitic with
Yeah.
some alluvial deposits, which
Okay.
contribute to the minerality and finesse often found in wines from this area.
Minerality, that's a term I often hear when describing white wines.
Uh-huh.
What does it actually mean?
Think of it as a sense of earthiness,
Okay.
a hint of salinity, almost as if you can taste the rocky, mineral-rich soils in the wine itself.
Interesting.
It's often described as a sort of stony or flinty quality.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture.
Good.
So we have Valdesones with its elegant, mineral-driven wines.
Yes.
What about Condado do Tea?
Okay.
What sets it apart?
Condado do Ti is a bit further inland,
Right.
situated along the Minho River,
Okay.
which forms the border between Spain and Portugal.
Huh.
This subregion has a slightly warmer climate,
Okay.
and its soils are a mix of granite and schist.
Schist?
Yes.
Is that another type of rock that impacts the wines?
It is.
Okay.
Schist is a metamorphic rock that breaks apart into thin, flat layers.
Interesting.
And this unique characteristic influences the wines,
Okay.
often giving them a slightly lighter, brighter character with more pronounced floral aromas.
So if Val de Salnés is known for elegance, would it be fair to say that Condado do Ti is known for its freshness and vibrancy?
That's a great way to put it.
Nice.
And we're just scratching the surface of the diversity within Rías Baixas.
Really?
We still have 3 more subregions to explore, each with its own unique story to tell.
Well, this is definitely shaping up to be a fascinating deep dive.
It is.
I'm already eager to learn more about these subregions and the wines they produce.
Me too.
But let's be honest, when we talk about Rías Baixas,
Mm-hmm.
there's one grape that reigns supreme.
Absolutely.
Albariño.
Albariño.
I've heard it described as the perfect seafood wine.
Yes.
What makes it such a great match?
Well, Albariño has this wonderful natural acidity,
Okay.
which cuts through the richness of seafood
Right.
and its flavor profile, with notes of citrus stone fruit and a hint of salinity,
Ooh.
complements the briny, delicate flavors of the ocean.
Sounds delicious.
It's a classic pairing for a reason.
Okay, I'm definitely adding Albariño to my shopping list.
You should.
But our sources mentioned that it's not just about one grape.
Right.
Even in Rías Baixas, there are other varieties being cultivated in the region, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
While Albariño is the undisputed star,
Yeah.
there are other indigenous grapes that play a supporting role.
Such as?
We have Lorera,
Okay,
Caimo Blanco, and Tresadura,
got it.
just to name a few.
So there's even more to discover beyond Albariño.
Absolutely.
Wow.
While these other grapes might not have the same widespread recognition as Albariño,
Right.
they contribute to the region's diversity and add complexity to the blends.
It sounds like Rías Baixas is a region that embraces both its flagship grape
Yes,
and the unique nuances of its lesser-known varieties.
definitely.
And I'm excited to delve deeper into the world of Albariño and discover what makes it such a special grape.
Well, get ready for a journey of the senses.
All right.
Because Albariño is a grape that truly captures the essence of the Atlantic.
I can't wait.
Me neither.
We've talked about the Atlantic influence, the history, and the diverse terroirs of Rías Baixas.
Right.
Now, I'm really curious to learn more about Albariño,
Yeah.
that star grape that seems to have everyone's attention.
Albariño is truly a fascinating grape.
Okay.
It's almost as if it was designed to thrive in the challenging climate of Rías Baixas.
Designed, what do you mean by that?
Well, think about some of its key characteristics.
Okay.
It buds early, which means it can take advantage of the relatively short growing season in Rías Baixas.
I see.
But it also ripens late,
Oh, interesting.
allowing it to develop complex flavors while maintaining its signature acidity.
There's a bit of a slow and steady approach.
Right.
Making the most of the cooler climate.
Exactly.
And then you have its thick skin,
Yes.
which acts as a natural barrier against fungal diseases that can be a problem in humid regions.
Right.
It's almost as if Albariño has evolved to withstand the challenges of this unique environment.
It has.
It sounds like a real survivor.
It is.
And speaking of surviving, our sources mention that those traditional Tara-trained vines play a crucial role in protecting the grapes.
Right. The Paris system with its high pergolas
Yeah.
is a brilliant adaptation to the humid climate.
Okay.
By lifting the vines off the ground,
Okay.
it allows for better air circulation,
Right.
which helps to prevent fungal diseases.
So it's not just a picturesque image.
No,
It's a practical solution that's been honed over centuries.
it is.
It's amazing how winemakers have combined traditional knowledge with an understanding of the environment
Yes.
to create such an effective system.
It's a testament to their ingenuity.
Absolutely.
And while the PARA system is still widely used,
Okay.
you'll also find more modern training methods in Rías Baixas,
Uh-huh.
like espaliers and cordon training.
Hold on. Remind me what espaliers are again?
Okay?
I know I've seen photos of vineyards with those neat rows of vines,
Yes.
but I can never remember the term.
Espaliers are essentially trellising systems,
Okay.
where the vines are trained to grow along wires,
Right.
creating those straight rows that you mentioned.
I see.
It allows for more efficient vineyard management and can be helpful for controlling yields and optimizing sunlight exposure.
So it's a bit more of a controlled approach
Yes.
compared to the free-flowing nature of the PARA system.
In a way, yes.
And cordon training is another modern method
Right.
where the vines are pruned to grow horizontally,
Yes.
creating a sort of cordon or arm along the wire.
Exactly.
Got it.
It's often used in conjunction with espaliers.
So it's like a blending of tradition and technology in the vineyards.
It is.
It's fascinating how Rías Baixas seems to embrace both the old and the new.
Exactly. And that same philosophy extends to the winemaking process itself.
Really?
There's a deep respect for traditional methods, but there's also a willingness to incorporate modern techniques when it makes sense.
Our sources mention the use of indigenous yeasts for fermentation.
Oh, yeah.
What's the significance of that?
Indigenous yeasts are naturally present in the vineyard environment,
Oh.
on the grape skins in the air.
Right.
They're like the native inhabitant of the Rías Baixas terroir.
So they're like little wild helpers in the winemaking process.
That's a great way to put it.
Cool.
And using indigenous yeasts allows the wines to express the unique character of the place where they're grown.
Huh.
It's like capturing a bit of the Rías Baixas magic in every bottle.
But our sources also mention modern techniques like temperature-controlled fermentation.
Yes.
How does that fit into the picture?
Temperature control is a way for winemakers to fine-tune the fermentation process,
Okay.
ensuring optimal conditions for the yeasts to do their work.
So they're helping those little helpers.
They are.
Got it.
It allows them to extract the best possible aromas and flavors from the grapes.
So it's not about replacing tradition,
Right.
but rather about enhancing it with modern tools.
Precisely. And that balance between tradition and technology is evident in the diverse range of wine styles produced in Rías Baixas.
You know, we keep talking about how Albariño is the perfect seafood wine, but is that all it's good for?
Well,
Are there other ways to enjoy it?
Albariño is incredibly versatile.
Okay.
While it's true that it has a natural affinity for seafood,
Right.
with its acidity and citrus notes cutting through the richness of shellfish and finfish, it can also shine with a wide range of other dishes.
Like what, for example? Give me some inspiration.
Think about lighter dishes with fresh, vibrant flavors.
Okay.
Salads with citrus vinaigrette,
Mm-hmm.
grilled chicken with lemon herb sauce,
Okay.
even sushi.
Mm.
Albariño's crispness and minerality can complement those dishes beautiful.
And what about those tapas we keep hearing about?
Ooh, yes.
Would Albariño be a good match?
Absolutely. Albariño is the perfect companion for tapas.
Really?
Its refreshing acidity cleanses the palate between bites, allowing you to fully savor the diverse flavors of those small plates.
So it's like the ultimate social wine, perfect for sharing with friends and exploring different flavors.
It is.
I'm starting to understand why people rave about it.
Me too.
But you mentioned that Rías Baixas produces a range of wine styles.
Right.
Does that mean there's more to Albariño than just the young, fresh wines we've been discussing?
You're right.
Okay.
While the majority of Rías Baixas Albariño is meant to be enjoyed young,
Yeah.
showcasing those vibrant, zesty flavors,
Right.
there are also some producers who are experimenting with oak aging.
Oak aging like they do with Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc?
Exactly. By aging Albariño in oak barrels,
Okay.
they can add complexity and structure to the wines.
Interesting.
The oak imparts notes of spice vanilla and a subtle toastiness,
Ooh.
creating a richer, more nuanced flavor profile.
So you get those lovely citrus and floral notes from the Albariño grape,
Yes,
but with an added layer of depth and complexity from the oak aging.
precisely.
And those oak-aged Albariños often have a beautiful texture, a bit more weight and richness on the palate.
They do.
Okay, that's definitely something I'd like to try.
You should.
But there's one more style of Rías Baixas wine that we haven't touched on yet.
Oh, right.
Sparkling Albariño.
Ah, yes. Sparkling Albariño is a real treat.
Okay.
It showcases the versatility of the grape, retaining that characteristic crispness and minerality,
Right.
but with an added layer of elegance and celebratory sparkle.
So you have options.
You do.
Whether you're looking for a light and refreshing sip, a more complex and age-worthy wine,
Right.
or something bubbly to celebrate a special occasion,
Yes.
Rías Baixas has something to offer.
And no matter the style,
Okay.
the hallmark of Rías Baixas Albariño is that unmistakable Atlantic character, that
Yeah.
salty tang,
Yeah.
that vibrant acidity that makes these wines so refreshing and food-friendly.
I'm starting to get a real sense of the place and the people behind these wines.
Good.
It's amazing how a grape can capture the essence of a region so beautifully.
It truly is. And speaking of the region,
Yeah.
we haven't talked about the role of the Rías Baixas denomination of origin, or DO for short.
Okay.
It's a crucial element in ensuring the quality and authenticity of the wine.
I remember seeing D on wine labels, but I've never really understood what it meant.
Think of it as a guarantee of origin and quality.
Okay.
The Rías Baixas DO sets strict standards for grape varieties, vineyard practices, and winemaking techniques.
Right.
ensuring that wines bearing its seal meet certain
So
criteria.
it's like a stamp of approval,
It is.
assuring consumers that they're getting a genuine Rias Baixas wine.
Exactly. It protects the reputation of the region and helps to maintain the high standards that Rias Baixas wines are known for.
Okay, that makes sense.
Good.
But within the Rias Baixas, too, there are different categories, right? We've
Yes.
mentioned oak-aged Albariño and sparkling Albariño.
Mm-hmm.
How are those classified?
You're right within the Rias Baixas do.
Okay,
You'll find categories like Rias Baixas Albariño,
yeah,
which designates the classic unoaked wines.
got it.
Then you have Rias Baixas Albariño and Venecido Embatica,
Oh, wow.
which is the designation for oak-aged Albariño.
Okay, so Embellecido Embatica essentially means aged in oak.
It does.
That's helpful to know when looking at wine labels.
Yes.
And for sparkling Albariño, you'll look for the designation Rias Baixas Espumante.
Exactly.
Espumante, it sounds almost as celebratory as the wines themselves.
Indeed. And as we continue our deep dive,
Okay.
we'll explore how Rias Baixas is not just a region of exceptional wines,
Uh-huh.
but also a destination that beckons travelers to experience its unique culture and breathtaking landscapes.
I like the sound of that. We've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Rias Baixas, from the influence of the Atlantic to the nuances of Albariño and the region's dedication to quality. But I'm curious about something we've touched on, the challenges facing wine regions around the world, especially climate change. How is Rias Baixas responding to those challenges?
Yeah, that's a crucial question, and it's one that Rias Baixas is taking very seriously. You see, this region has always been about adapting to its environment, from those ingenious para-trained vines to the late-ripening nature of Albariño itself. Now they're applying that same spirit of resilience to the challenges of a changing climate.
Our sources mention a strong commitment to sustainability. What does that look like in practice?
It's a multifaceted approach. You'll find a growing number of producers adopting organic farming practices, reducing their reliance on chemical pesticides and herbicides. There's also a focus on preserving biodiversity in the vineyards, encouraging beneficial insects and plants that contribute to a healthy ecosystem.
So it's about thinking holistically, understanding that a healthy vineyard is part of a larger interconnected web.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the vineyards. There's a growing awareness of the importance of water conservation, using innovative irrigation techniques to minimize water usage. And some producers are even experimenting with renewable energy sources like solar panels to power their wineries.
It sounds like they're really committed to minimizing their environmental impact. But are these practices just about being eco-conscious, or are there practical benefits for the wines themselves?
It's both. Really sustainable practices lead to healthier vineyards, which in turn can produce higher quality grapes. And by focusing on biodiversity and natural balance, winemakers are allowing the unique character of the terroir to shine through in the wines.
So it's a win-win situation. You get delicious, authentic wines, and you're also contributing to a healthier environment. But our sources also mention innovation, not just in terms of sustainability, but also in the wines themselves. What's happening on that front?
There's a lot of exciting research and experimentation happening in Rias Baixas. Some winemakers are exploring new grape varieties, looking for those that might be better suited to the changing climate. Others are experimenting with different winemaking techniques, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with Albariño and other indigenous grapes.
It sounds like they're not afraid to try new things while still respecting the traditions of the region.
Exactly. And that blend of tradition and innovation is what makes Rias Baixas so fascinating. They're constantly evolving, adapting, and refining their craft, which is why their wines continue to capture the attention of wine lovers around the world.
We've talked about the wines, the terroir, and the sustainability efforts, but I want to circle back to something we mentioned earlier, eno-tourism. It seems like Rias Baixas is more than just a wine region, it's a destination.
Absolutely. Rias Baixas offers visitors a chance to immerse themselves in the culture, the history, and the stunning landscapes that shape the wines. Imagine strolling through vineyards overlooking the Atlantic, the salty air on your skin, a glass of Albariño in hand.
It sounds idyllic, and our sources mention charming towns, historic monasteries, and of course those welcoming wineries where you can taste the passion poured into every bottle.
It's a sensory experience, a journey for all the senses. You can savor the fresh seafood, explore the historic towns and villages, and connect with the people who have been making wine in this region for generations.
It sounds like a place that beckons you to slow down, savor the moment, and appreciate the simple pleasures of life.
And that, perhaps, is the essence of Rias Baixas. It's a region that embodies a way of life, a deep connection to the land, and a commitment to preserving its unique heritage.
So what stands out to you about Rias Baixas after this deep dive? It's a region that has faced challenges head-on, adapted to its environment, and embraced both tradition and innovation.
It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of place, and the enduring allure of exceptional wine.
And for our listener, perhaps this deep dive has sparked a curiosity to explore the wines of Rias Baixas. Maybe it's time to seek out a bottle of Albariño, chill it properly, and experience that refreshing burst of Atlantic flavor for yourself.
As you savor each sip, remember the story behind the wine, the generations of winemakers who have tended these vineyards, the unique terroir that has shaped the flavors, and the dedication to sustainability that ensures a future for this special corner of the world.
It's a reminder that wine is more than just a beverage. It's a reflection of a place, a culture, and a way of life. And in the case of Rias Baixas, it's a story worth savoring.